Hello and welcome all to the 13th part of the series on self exploration. Joining the dots, contemplating, comprehending, and sharing it with you, all raw, straight from my heart. All that sounds great is the grace of all those who have blessed me in my path. And all that sounds not so great is my limitation. So let's get going. Jonathon. What strikes us when we first hear this word? For me, at least, it is the only one, Jonathon. The Jonathon Livingston Seagull. A masterpiece by Richard Bach. For all the book lovers, this surely must be one of your favorite books. It is mine too. For those who haven't yet experienced the magic of this, Jonathon is a seagull. A seagull that is wanting to do something that normally seagulls would not. He wants to take a flight beyond the anatomically mapped capacities for a seagull. Joe tries to be like an ordinary seagull, but he is not able to pretend for a long time. His perfect idea of freedom and flight is limited by nothing at all. There is so much to learn. Joe is a hungry, happy, and ever learning seagull. Break the chains of your thought and you break the chains of your body too. Overcome the space and all we have left is here. And overcome the time and all we have left is now. Go beyond here and now. Joe believes in this philosophy, gets hurt, gets disgusted again and again, but finally he achieves to break through all that he has dreamt of ever. He masters all that sounded impossible ever for a seagull, reaches his heaven. And Joe could have always rested and enjoyed the sweet fruits of paradise. But he is Joe, the unusual. Because he was unusual, he could reach heaven. And because he was still unusual, he comes back to the flock of other seagulls to explain to them that it is also possible for them to become Jews. This is a heart-throbbing book, a small one, and in a very, very crispy and fascinating manner, Richard puts forward the transcendence of an ordinary soul with an extraordinary belief. We need to merge with this book emotionally, and then it takes us on a high ride for sure. I really recommend it for all those who have not read it. The audio version is also available in the voice of the author himself. This is one side of our today's discussion. I joined this personality of Joe, an ordinary rising to an extraordinary and coming back down to take so many other ordinaries with him. Same time along, I happened to brush through the sayings of Spinoza, a Jewish philosopher. Spinoza, like most of our ancient Eastern beliefs, asks man to see God in mountains, in nature, and not in idols and dead scriptures. He says, nature is so alive. Nature is God. Definitely. His idea is to go from a rigid concept of some God that is bound in an idol or in a scripture to a wider one. From a man-made creation to a not man-made creation, expanding our concepts of God and embracing God in expansion. Of course, he is correct in that sense. Mountains, rivers, flowing breezes are bigger frames for a man's understanding. And therefore, when we look at God as somebody big, much bigger, we start looking at him as flowing rivers, as mountains, as stars, as sun, as moon. But if we take a top-down view on a more wider note, is God even as rigid and small as the nature and mountains seem to us? Because we are looking from down, for us mountain is very big. But if we take a top-bottom approach, if an overview, mountains are just small pieces on land if we see from a flight. So is God, who's bigger, is still very vast than the so-called big mountains and everything? Joe on one side and Spinoza on the other side. Ta-dang! My tagline, joining the dots, contemplating, comprehending, connecting Joe to Spinoza. Here it goes. In some out-of-the-box connectivity, I thought all these things or feelings, like the innocence in our child's eyes, the security in the touch of our beloved. I would want all of you all to experience this as I'm saying. The serenity in it, the divinity in it, the innocence in our child's eyes, the security in the touch of our beloved, and all such things, the beauty and the expanse, the magnanimity of nature, in which Spinoza suggests to see God, are nothing but Jonathons, living Jonathons. These are the messengers that will navigate us to the limitless vastness called God. Through the innocence of the child, we can enter a tunnel of bliss. Through the security of Mehuna, we actually become so blissful and quiet that it is a point of entry into the divine world. A vastness that cannot be fit into any of our frames. Let it be mountains, or let it be idols or scriptures. Certainly, one should not get stuck in idols and temples and scriptures for God. Those should not be the only ways to access God. God is a much vaster and a subtler concept than that. It is God who created nature and emotions, but He created the same to help us reach towards Him, like navigators. He kept His own trace in our existence, which we seldom realize. That is the closest God to us, if we can navigate with that. But as said, tat dure tat samipake, the closest and the farthest. If we follow just that trace that He has put in our beings, we actually need nothing else to know God. But the noble men realized this, that however close it is not the one that gets very easily accessed by seekers or by anyone. So to pay tribute to these natural forces, they might have created some symbols, idols, and the worship for soil, water, fire, mountains, God of love, God of prosperity, God of wisdom. Symbols came into existence, which were actually the portals for us. They did attempts to catch this divine in words, in scriptures. But even they realized that it is not something that can be captured in words or scriptures. So even they ended up saying, neti neti, not like this, not like this. It is not like this, it is not like this. Holding the hands of these idols or these symbols, which were nothing but the Jonathans who had come down from the paradise to take us back with them. It was expected to reach the ultimate bliss through the medium of these Jonathans, these idols. But the mistake the ritualists did, or man stuck in ritualism did, that he got flown away in rigid formalities and a vicious cycle of good and bad deeds, right and wrong, and in the filth of the small world. So many times we miss out on such Jonathans that knock our door in the hoard of some very small mundane things. Do we ask ourselves whether it is really worth to lose on someone who will be able to take me to that bliss or accompany me towards that bliss? Jonathans like Spinoza, they come down to awaken us, because they realize that we have come a long way from seeing the Jonathans in the idols and temples and scriptures. We are just too embedded with the rituals. So then they propagate and suggest us to leave those idols, to leave the scriptures, and try to see the Jonathans in more sublime things, in the eyes of our beloved, or in the mountains or rivers try to pull us out of the rigidity of the idols and scriptures. They open our consciences to the purity and freedom of the original. Original that no chain can bind, no malice can soil, and no rigidity can bring down. That original, that pure. Just like on the way to the destination of some place, we see arrows with banners of the place. Go this way, go this way, go this way to reach there. I feel love, nature, pure emotions are the roadway arrows to a destination God. By going ahead on their way, we may find God one day. Or we may just realize that God is not there. It is here, beating within us 24/7. Celebrating that each breath, our closest to Jonathon, the messenger, is the in thing, is the ultimate thing. Once accomplished that, everything else is just but peripheral. It's a light-hearted game. Then worship idols or don't. Explore nature or don't. Value the emotions of someone around you. Or just live in an isolated bliss. It's all the same. Jonathon and Spinoza together. Stay tuned. Some such self-explorations will keep following. Thank you.